to have your voice heard here later on in the meeting, and I'm going to encourage you to do that. I heard a quote the other day that kind of hit me, and I want to repeat it here because it has relevance here tonight. And it went like this: when the story of your life is being written, don't let somebody else hold the pen. That's what we do at Farm Bureau. We're not going to let somebody else hold the pen when we're writing about rural Texas and agriculture. We're going to hold that pen ourselves. We're going to continue to face challenges, and a lot depends on how we respond to those challenges. I want to end with a poem. Every once in a while I'll put something to rhyme. It's easy to make a speech, but I've been writing poetry for many, many years. And I want to end with a poem that I think kind of exemplifies how we all feel about agriculture and rural Texas and a rural life. The poem is called "The Finer Things in Life." And I think when I get through, you'll agree with me in what this poem says. But it goes like this. There's a lot of debate and opinions about the things that make life worthwhile. Some folks think it's big houses and cars and money stacked up in a pile. But I wasn't brought up with that thinking. Some think I'm a pretty dull mind. Because my opinion will differ with some when it comes to the finer things in this life. Now, folks, I can't tell you what fish eggs taste like because I've always just used them for bait. But caviar can't compare as a delicacy to calf fries served up on a plate. And to wash supper down, some folks seem to think high-priced wine really makes it a meal. But I'd much rather have a big glass of iced tea. And in my book, it's a much better deal. Some folks like to sniff perfumes and oils that take a big chunk of their pay. Those sweet smells are nice, but they just can't compare to a whiff of some fresh baled hay. And some folks believe that cities are grand, with tall buildings and millions of lights, but they can't hold a candle to the beauty and peace that you find in a starry country night. Some folks like to spend lots of money on clothes for designer labels they'll fight. But I just as soon have a good pair of jeans broken in where they fit me just right. And those cute little slippers with tassels they wear, man, I really think they're a hoot. Because they cost so much more and they're worth so much less than a good pair of cowboy boots. Now, I hope you don't think I'm making fun of our cousins who live in the city, but I've spent enough time stuck in their traffic jams to cause me to give them my pity. Well, I'll have to agree with the wise man who said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the wisdom of that, I have to admit, makes more sense as I start to grow older. Well, I guess it depends on how you were raised, and what you call hard times and strife. Because it is amazing how ideas can differ in the finer things in this life. Folks, agriculture in rural Texas is one of the finer things in his life. Thank you for your membership here. Thank you for your participation. President, I think they have spent no time on a farm or ranch. That means their parents probably weren't raised on a farm or ranch. And you got to go all the way back to grandma or grandpa before you find anybody in the family that knows anything about producing food and fiber. That's a dangerous situation. We've got people that are putting out false information about agriculture. So part of what your dues money buys is curriculum and people going out into the school and creating a partnership with teachers in the education community and teaching these kids about agriculture. Now, we're not teaching them how to farm or ranch, but we're teaching these kids through lessons in the classroom about how they are involved in agriculture. It's pretty cool to go into inner city Houston and explain to those kids in those classes who have never set foot on a farm how they can't go one day in their lives without coming into contact with some part of a cotton plant. We teach these kids math lessons, science lessons, and then we relate it to agriculture. And there's not a downside to this. The kids are interested, the kids are engaged, they like that kind of lesson. And another funny thing happens when we're in the classroom. We have these 25 or 30 kids, and we're teaching them. We have a teacher in the back of the classroom that's also paying attention. So that teacher is getting the message. This past year, we've managed to reach over 6,000 elementary school kids with a message of agriculture. Again, they didn't come out to be a farmer's rancher, they want to be farmer's ranchers, but they learned a little bit about agriculture. We've reached those 6,000 kids in about 150 schools. And we've also touched more than 300 teachers. We have an ag in the classroom curriculum that we'll deliver to these teachers, and we'll teach them how to teach it. So we've done a lot of that. Another thing that we're extremely proud of that we do for the youth, you've already mentioned, Tom, the Youth Leadership Conference. This past summer marked 52 consecutive years that we did our Youth Leadership Conference. And for those of you that are not aware, let me tell you a little bit about that conference. Every year, high school juniors and seniors are sponsored by county farm bureaus, just like Wilson County. We start on the far reaches of Texas with 9 buses, and we pick these kids up all over the state and haul them to the campus of a university here in the state of Texas. When we get them there, we have a 5-day seminar that teaches these kids about the U.S. Constitution, the free enterprise system, and how good a system that is, and how it's the best economic system in the world. We teach them about money management, what pitfalls not to fall into, the time value of money, that type of thing. We teach them about citizenship and leadership. And we even have a lady come in and teach these kids about dress and etiquette. How do you want to present yourself? What kind of an impression do you want to make when you go to school or when you are going to get a job? Folks, it's some of the best money that we spend. Once again, that's part of what your $40 membership dues are buying. Okay, let's talk about now Farm Bureau in your house. I want to brag on our insurance folks a little bit. This year, for the 4th consecutive year, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance Company has received the J.D. Power Award. That means we're the best in the Central United States as far as customer service and auto insurance. You don't apply for it, you don't run for it, you just, they observe you and you are awarded that. It's a big deal. So if you have Farm Bureau insurance, you're in very good company. We also have a wide variety of other member benefits that'll save you many times the cost of that $40. We've got discount programs with General Motors and Polaris and Case. We have discounts, prescription drug programs, hotels, and they would like to do it cheaply. But Farm Bureau is always in the mix when it comes to talking about water and groundwater. And groundwater is a property right in Texas, thanks in part to Farm Bureau. Private property rights and eminent domain is another issue that comes up every session, and it's one that we keep track of consistently. Folks, we all know we got to have highways, we got to have pipelines, we got to have high lines. There are instances where private property owners have to give up some of their property. We understand that, but what Farm Bureau will insist upon is that private property owners are treated fairly when their property has to be taken by eminent domain. Those are some things that we keep track of for you every session. Also want to mention that and remind everybody we have a general election here in November, and there are a series of constitutional amendments that will be put before you, and I just want to mention 3 of those. Farm Bureau has taken a position on 3 of those constitutional amendments, and I want to tell you about it. First of all is Proposition 1. Proposition 1 provides for an increase in property tax household exemption. Right now it's $15,000. We're going to increase it to $25,000 if Proposition 1 passes. Again, Farm Bureau is in favor of Proposition 1. Proposition 6. This is going to sound funny to you, but Proposition 6 provides for the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife. We don't have that constitutional right here in Texas, and if we do pass this proposition, we'll become one of 19 states that have that as one of our rights. Again, Farm Bureau has the livestock in complete sentences. You're talking to these livestock. Everybody's done that. Okay? All right, here's a kind of a skill question. How many of you folks out there can tell the difference between smoke and dust coming out of a piece of farm machinery, especially around balers? That's very important if you are baling hay. Last question. How many of you gentlemen out there have ever lied to a mechanic about how often you grease that piece of machinery? Well, you don't really want to admit it, but you did. Okay, well, this is kind of a country crowd, and I can handle that. I've been there before. Along those lines, though, I couldn't miss an opportunity to comment on Russell and Margie Bain. I know they've been introduced, but I wanted to make a few comments. I've known them both for more than 25 years. And I'm going to relate this to agriculture, and I hope, Russell and Margie, that you will take this as a compliment that it is intended. When you go to rebuilding your herd, Wayne, the best thing to do is raise your own replacements, isn't it? Well, that's the best way to ensure good leadership as well. Rather than bringing somebody in from outside, if you raise your own, you know what you got there. That's what Texas Farm Bureau has done, Russell and Margie Bain. They've been raised in Farm Bureau. They come from a generational Farm Bureau family. He knows what he's talking about. He meets with our elected representatives. He's a full-time ag producer. So I'm proud to call him boss and the president of Texas Farm Bureau. And Margie is a tremendous asset as well. I want to thank Wilson County. I want to thank the Bainey family for letting us borrow him for a while. Folks, y'all have no idea the time that it takes to be Farm Bureau president. And Russell and Margie are willing to give that time up. So we appreciate them, and I think we ought to give them a hand for their service. Okay, I am going to do some substantial stuff tonight, and basically what I want to do is just give you a report on your organization. You're here because you pay dues to Wilson County Farm Bureau. You pay about $40 a year to belong to this organization. So what I want to do is I want to tell you just a little bit about what your money is being spent for. What does that $40 buy you? And I'm going to boil this thing down into about 4 different areas. I'm going to tell you how that $40 buys you representation. In number 1, the State House. Number 2, the courthouse. Number 3, the schoolhouse. And number 4, depending upon your choice, even in your house. So that's what I'm going to boil this talk down to, how you're represented in those 4 areas. First of all, I'm going to talk about the State House. Representative Kemple and Russell talked a little bit about what we do in the political arena. The legislative session in Austin, Representative Kemple, adjourned on June 1st after 140 days. Folks, a lot happens in 140 days in Austin, and not all of it is good. I want to report to you that there were more than 6,200 bills that were introduced in the House and Senate. And folks, you've got to know not all of those were good bills. And they didn't all survive, but 1,300 of those bills did survive. We maintain an office and a staff in Austin to keep track of every bill that is filed. And if it has to do with agriculture, if it has to do with rural communities, if it has to do with any interest of Farm Bureau, our staff is there to catch it. We track it, and then we communicate with our elected officials on what we would like to see done with those bills.
Deep in the weeds on WOTUS because it gets pretty complicated. Basically, it's an EPA overreach. They want to start regulating ditches, low spots in your field. You know, places that run water maybe once every month, or in this part of the world, maybe once every month out of the year. So anyway, we got some good news. The rules have been stayed, or I guess you could say suspended, until all the lawsuits are settled. And there's a bunch of lawsuits. Texas Farm Bureau filed with American Farm Bureau in Galveston. The state of Texas has filed. A bunch of different industry groups have filed. So I think we have their attention. Hopefully we'll get some good results. I know we have county judge here tonight and commissioners. Thank you guys for being here. I know y'all are up on these things too, because they don't affect just agriculture. I mean, they affect the way everybody does business. So we really need to keep a close eye on that. Some good things that happened in Austin. You know, we had some good bills passed. Water is always going to be important. We're looking at brackish water. We're going to have to look at brackish water as far as the water needs of the state. There's going to be a study to kind of determine where all the brackish water is. So I think that's a good thing. We have some other stuff as far as the GPS equipment. won't have any sales tax on it anymore. GPS equipment that's used in your tractors and stuff. So that's some good things. Ammonium nitrate. If you kept up with the explosion that happened in the town of West, you know they pretty much traced it back to ammonium nitrate. The representative from that area, which is also a Brazos County board member, Farm Bureau board member, Kyle Cassell, came up with a good bill. We think it'll work for ag. We think it'll address some of the needs that we need to do with the fertilizer business. It's going to involve some more inspections, but at least we didn't lose ammonium nitrate. Kyle Cassell is another example of someone that has been a good friend of ours, and that kind of leads me to where I want to close. Good things happen in Austin because people in this room, your board of directors, and hopefully some of you, we make visits there. We visit with the folks up there, and we have something that we call Ag Fund. It's our political action committee. I just want to mention